The Smallest Mandarin Orange. A tangled tale sure to test the best attention span, this Yuletide poem setting is an orchard in Japan, where some few years ago, upon a frosty autumn morn, just weeks ahead of Christmas, grew the smallest mandarin orange. Though all the other oranges were at least 2 inches wide, an ordinary thimble could have held this one inside. The other fruit all laughed at it and called it minuscule. Though Japanese are quite polite, their oranges can be cruel. This tiny orange, undaunted, still was hoping to be picked, although for this to happen he would have to grow, and quick. The other normal mandarins would frequently start talking about their dream to grace the toe of some child's Christmas stocking. Each mandarin that's eaten by a child on Christmas morn, just as the sun is rising, is a lucky mandarin orange. The eating of the orange is, for the child, a good luck charm. No member of their family can thereafter come to harm. And for the orange, it's special too, 'cause, you must take my word, its soul then reincarnates as an animal or bird. Our ultra-compact hero kept on clinging to his twig, absorbing all his nutrients and trying to get big. But when the picking time arrived, the tiny orange despaired, 'cause sure enough the pickers came and went and left him there. Although the fruit had been removed from all the other trees, our microscopic friend had been passed over, left to freeze. Imagine, if you will, him hanging there, alone, forlorn, just waiting for a wintry gale. Cheer up, it's just an orange. The orchard where the mandarins grew, or made their best attempt, was not a neat and tidy one, but scruffy and unkempt. Instead of grassy spaces, with the trees placed row on row, a fair amount of underbrush had been allowed to grow. This scruffiness we might deplore had one small benefit. A lot of little animals had made their homes in it. Tucked in the weeds beneath the tree in which our hero grew, there was a tiny burrow, and within it lived a shrew. Correction, there was not just one, but there, in fact, were 2. You know what shrews are like, right? If you don't, here's what I'll do. I'll conjure up an image that will make them clear for you. Imagine someone's thumb dressed up in fur. Voila, the shrew. A mother and her tiny son were living in this hole, which had been dug and once was owned by some industrious mole. There was a dad till recently, but I am sad to say, while he was outside foraging upon one fateful day, an eagle, also foraging, had carried him away. Still making the adjustment with their family shrunk to 2 were Anastasia, the mum, and Tom, her baby shrew. She showed amazing fortitude and kept an outer calm, determined to make Christmas really special for her Tom. And now our epic takes us to December 24, as Anastasia the shrew was looking out her door. The hour was late. The sky was dark. The moon was on the rise. Her little Tom, all tired out, had long since closed his eyes. His tiny stocking dangled from one corner of his bed, with Tom the shrew embroidered down its length in silver thread. His mum had gathered up some seeds and stowed them all away beneath a nearby toadstool to be fetched on Christmas Day, and stuffed into Tom's stocking as the first light hit the sky, so when he woke, he'd realize that Santa had been by. There's far too many animals for Santa Claus to visit, so they supply his gifts themselves. Well, that's not wrong now, is it? She softly closed her door and brushed her teeth and curled her hair. You didn't know shrews did that. Well, guess what? They do. So there. She gave a tired yawn and crawled into her soft duvet and set her wee alarm for 5 a.m. on Christmas Day. But best laid plans of mice and men and shrews gang after gley, as Scotland's favourite poet Robbie Burns was known to say. Her eyes, when she arose at 5, beheld an awesome sight. She stepped outside her door and saw the orchard clad in white. There'd been a storm. A foot of snow had fallen through the night. Her first reaction to the snow was joy, but then she thought, however am I going to find that stash of seeds I've got? I won't be able to retrieve Tom's little stocking stuffers. The thought of disappointing him made Anastasia suffer. Then slowly down her furry cheek there rolled one shining tear. She raised her paw to wipe it. You must pay attention here. For at that very moment, through the orchard came a breeze, which gently shook the branches of the rows of mandarin trees. And from a branch above wee Anastasia's mournful form, just at that perfect moment, fell the smallest mandarin orange. She felt a smack, and looking down, was overcome with awe to see the perfect Tom-sized fruit which lay there in her paw. A passing squirrel who'd seen the catch cried, "Good for you! The way you caught that orange! You must be an expert in kung fu!" The squirrel was astounded by the timing of the shrew. She nodded to him shakily, acknowledging the praise, then turned and went back in her hole, and somewhat in a daze, deposited the orange into the stocking by Tom's bed. Then, nudging him, she said, "Wake up! It's Christmas, sleepyhead. I'll make you up some acorn tea. The kettle's almost hot. But check your Christmas stocking first to see what Santa's brought." Tom ogled when he saw the bulge that told him Santa had been. Then reaching in, he found the nicest orange he'd ever seen. A normal one would be so large a shrew could live in it, but this one, for his Christmas gift, was just a perfect fit. While Anastasia brewed the tea, Tom gobbled up his treat. He tried to give his mother half, which I think was rather sweet. But she said, "Santa brought the orange for you. It's yours, so eat." The moment he had finished, something marvelous occurred. From just outside their hole, approaching footsteps could be heard, and then a knock came at the door. They thought, who could it be? The mother shrew ran to the door and opened it to see, and with a gasp of joy observed upon her welcome mat, all tattered and bedraggled, missing gloves and scarf and hat, like something that the cat dragged in, a lot the worse for wear, but living, breathing, smiling, her lost husband standing there. Her head began to reel, and then she fell down in a faint. You might think shrews are stoic. Well, occasionally they ain't. But after a few moments, Anastasia revived, and looking at him, gasped, "My heavens, Hubert, you're alive!" If Hubert seems a funny name, just shorten it to Hugh, and then it seems quite natural. His name was Hugh the Shrew. He answered, "That I am," and with a slow, familiar grin, he winked at Anastasia and said, "May I come in?" So in they went and sat right down while Hugh began to say how he'd escaped the eagle and come home on Christmas Day. The story was incredible and made its listeners gape. When Hugh'd been caught, he'd wriggled in an effort to escape, and he had kept on wriggling although it seemed no use, but after several miles, all at once, he'd wriggled loose. Then, as his recent captor kept on flying unaware, end over end from dizzy height, he'd tumbled through the air. The ground rushed up. He thought his final moment had arrived. Then splat! He landed in a pile of leaves. He had survived. All shaken up and winded from his fall and from his flight, he'd burrowed in the leaves and passed a cold and restless night. Then in the morning, climbing out, he'd started on his way, determined that he'd make it home in time for Christmas Day. And with the typical determination of the shrew, our Hugh had finally done what he had set himself to do. And now our story's almost done, except for just one thing. In all this talk of shrews, I'm sure that you were wondering, what happened to the Mandarin? Did his soul return to life? Well, let me fill you in. That March, our Hubert's tiny wife came up to him and said, "Sit down, I've got some news for you. The doctor phoned and told me that I'm once again with Shrew." And when the day arrived when their new baby Shrew was born, just for the first few hours of life, her fur was brilliant orange. And when she grew a little and began to go outside, she startled everyone by doing things no shrew had tried. The shrew was built for tunneling. They do it with great ease. But this one, Mandy, showed amazing skill in climbing trees. She'd dangle from the branches while her parents both would warn, "Just make sure you don't fall. What do you think you are, an orange?"